Hello Jammer family, let's jump right into part 3 of our ice castle. Here is a quick look at the stairs and where I was going with that. Once I stuffed the newspapers in on the side, I filled it with paper mache, and that's how it's beginning to look. I like it, I'm happy with the results. Here's just some action stuff with me doing some paper mache. On this piece from the Bratz Mansion, I was being very conscious to make sure it fit in properly while I put the paper mache on. I did later have to dig some out on the other side to make it fit, which is great because this is only the first coat. Here I'm showing how I do paper mache. I'm no pro at it, and I've learned as I gone along. I put that many 10 sheets, 10 pieces inside the stuff, and I got 10 soaking outside so they get nice and soft and pliable. Little shout out to Summer Lee, who suggested I use bread flour. She said it's better and dries harder. I'm not sure about the drying harder, but it definitely makes the newspaper more pliable quicker than the regular flour, so that's been very handy. Shout outs, thank you all very much for being part of the family. Love ya. Okie dokie. So here, oh, and thank you Summer Lee, that was a great tip and I'm really glad to have used it. Okay, here I glued and siliconed this stand on the very top just like I did on the bottom. It's nice and sturdy and ready to be paper mached. On the top where the dance club will be, again I put the play piece in its place. I got a little ahead of myself there to check my measurements, and here I'm putting up the wonderful art from Summer Lee to see if I can get it to fit in there, and just moving along, I guess, showing a nice overview of what I've put the items in place to get a look at where it's going and on its way. And it's also very encouraging to me to stop every now and then and have a little look. Gonna make a little fire pit area down here, but I have to wait because I step on that area a lot and need to reach in there, so that will be done last after most is done. Actually have this cute little t-shirt of Gracie's that doesn't fit her anymore, so I'm going to cut around that skullet maybe and make a little blanket to put on the sleigh. I think that would be a nice addition to have over the laps on the sleigh in the cold. Something I forgot to mention is when I started this, I obviously started at the bottom and worked my way up, and that was so the weight distribution, because the paper mache is very heavy, so I can get it strengthened at its foundation and then work my way up, and it could handle the weight when it was on top. That was important for it not crumbling and not falling apart. Alrighty, here I'm checking and got everything in place. Again, making sure everything fits and opens correctly and nothing is in the way. But over here I did put a little too much paper mache and it just got a little too snug, so I did have to use my craft knife and dig out a little of the plastic to make that fit. Luckily that will strengthen itself. We got the bar area here, that'll be a project on its own, probably the hardest one of this whole thing, and I'll get to that. I'd like a black background. Of course this art is looking fabulous there, but you'll see by the end I have to make a change, and I think that that is going to end up on the right hand side behind the bar. I don't know, I'm still working on that thought. The bar might not quite be as high. That I'll figure out, because I kind of want to make it look like there's a bench seating in here for sitting around for people, so I'm not sure about the height of that, but that thing is going to go in there. And of course I would like it very sparkly up in there and glitter pukish, yay yay yay. So here I used some leftover rope string I had, and I'm just adding it there to add some texture for a banister. Here's the little sign I'm going to eventually hang with the name of the dance club on top, so now that spot and shape makes sense. And here is the Deejay area. Still got a few things to work out. And this one I had to be really cautious and sure I even had that play piece there while it was wet to hold it in place, so I absolutely didn't mess up and not have this fit in perfectly. It does end up working well as we move along. It's just showing that to show you how conscious I am of things. Here's our little rope off the side, which will be for the Abbey. Look like she's rappelling down the side and carving the mountain out or whatever she's doing. I'm covering it later with plastic so I don't get paper mache and flour all over it and mess it up. At this point, I'm giving you a few more little overviews of how it's looking. I love the holes on the side. I'm glad I didn't go solid with that. And here on the back, just kind of shows you how those pieces are fitting in and how it looks from the back, which is quite ridiculous, but of course you don't see that, so that is a wonderful thing. And what's next? More paper mache? Sorry if this is a little boring, but it is a video journal and this is the journey through this project. I would work on it for as long as I could and then let it dry for 2 days before I would work on it again. So it's been quite a job. More shout outs to our lovely SPF family. On this session of paper mache, I was finally able to do the top. I could not reach it and it was obviously killing my shoulders, so I laid it down on the floor, which was funny because we had to leave it there overnight to make sure it dried where it was meant to be, especially right there on the left to match up to that top portion of that playset. Here is that banister railing covered up now with the paper mache. I'm glad I get to show you this now because I think later in video when it's painted, those kind of details are not going to be showing quite as well. I've got Abby's snowboard area filled in really well there. And then next we move on to, before I get to the second coat, having put about 40 hours into this already, I want to make sure it fits. So Alex helped me carry it up to the doll room and we put it in place, and as you can see, I got that top part just right, thankfully. I would have preferred Abby on that top peak, but it just wasn't going to work in terms of the space. Here's that repelling thing hanging on the side with plastic all over it. And what I did on the side by adding that extra is perfect because then when you look from the side, you won't see what's going on in the back. That was the whole reason for that kind of left area, having that extra little hook to it. Everything's good on the right. We still got some room to get into the closet. Fabulous. There we go. I can still get into the closet. Love the fan art up here. Looking beautiful. And then when I look over to this side, I'm just showing that, okay, I can't see behind that either. There's nothing more I have to worry about hiding by the time I go to the second coat. Ugh. So here I ask Alex, please wiggle it a little bit so we can see how it, how sturdy it is. And well, I guess we're not to that part yet, but we're getting there. I asked him to move it over to the left first, I guess. And yeah, that is so if I get a swag light instead of the stand-up one there, then I can move it over a little bit more and give it even, hi Panda, give it even a little more space. So that's going to work out well too. Wonderful, wonderful. It's always good. I'm like I always tell you guys, I'm guys and gals, I'm very visual, so this really makes me feel confident to move on to the second coat of paper mache. And yeah, overview, there it is. Oh, here he is. Here's when he's shaking it, and oh, I was almost like crying, like, wow, you don't have to be so strong about it. He was using a lot of muscles, so that has really strengthened up, and we'll do so more once we get the second coat. Alrighty, now that I know it fits, I can work on softening and adding definition and adding dimension and more that might be needed. Here you can just see many areas that I twisted up some more newspaper and just added to the whole snow effect, so it didn't look like, you know, squared off cardboard and things. Especially this top part, I love it because that's really, I think, going to make that snowboard Abbey look fantastic. This area dried perfectly to fit in that playset, and now I've come to where I got to make some decisions on the lounge area. I did pull the pieces out of the bar set so I can see how they fit. It's quite big, actually. The bar is quite big. And I used, like in the beginning of this, I used some paper to make a pattern to get the seat part close enough, and then I was able to fix it. And I put some 2x2 scrap wood underneath just to hold it for support. And checking it all out, making sure it fits. And of course, next I will move on to paper macheing that. And I love that that's going to be a nice contrast to the other side, which is the stairs. So it just all looks carved in. I put the playset in place just to be sure, and here is a win. a win, it fits. This part here I'm trying to figure out, do I want it open or do I want it closed? I like it closed for the, or open for the whole look, but then I like it closed because it'll look kind of like a bouncer's there or something, I'm not sure. On this bench area, I stuffed it with newspaper, and like the stairs and the snow mound hill, I'm just gonna cover that all up too to make it look like Abby went and carved that seating out. And then as well, I took the pattern I had and enhanced it to perfectly fit that top area, so I'm going to use that later to use as a pattern so I can make a cushion, because who wants to sit on an ice seat? That's just not cool. That would be uncomfortable. And then down here I'm going to do the same thing, but as I said earlier, I'm going to have to wait till later because I'm pretty sure I'd be kicking that over and breaking it quite often. But I did want these a little higher, like the one in the bench seat, because I wanted the dolls to sit well. They got really nice dresses and things, and I want them to sit pretty, so that's why that's so high. As for the futon or whatever in the living room, oh, shout outs. Thank you, SPF family. Enjoy your company on here. Thank you. We're going to pretend that that is a pull-out couch because nothing else fits. So here is the bench seat now. The paper mache is on it. It's looking way better. And I'm ready for a second coat. Finally, I had this thought, because now I'm showing here that I have to do a second coat because one coat is not always so strong. And I've already tried to move this unit and stuck my fingers through it. So unfortunately, some areas do need second coat. So I'm just using an eraser to poke it in there and find out. And some areas are strong, thankfully, so that will be the fun. And I thought, how am I going to keep track of what's a first coat and what's a second coat, because I don't do this all in one sitting, I'm going to lose track. So I had this handy dandy idea to put some blue dye in it, and I did, and it works. And I'm really happy to report that the dye, food coloring it is, sorry, the food coloring does not stain your hands, thankfully. I thought of that after I started and didn't put a glove on. But the holes I poked, I'm just stuffing them with a little bit of the wet paper mache newspaper, and then I'll cover it. And this gives me a great opportunity to do a little bit more smoothing. What I do love about this paper mache project being ice, and did I ever say that it's kind of inspired by the Frozen castle, which I loved but was too small? There's a lot of forgiveness in this design because snow and ice is not perfect, so I luckily don't have to get it as smooth as many of the people do that do phenomenal furniture and everything. I can't touch them on that. I'm a little lazy, I guess. Not always, but anyway, I guess I'm just saying this ice theme. It's really handy for paper mache not having to be so perfect. But as I'm showing you, I'm doing a lot of smoothing now, trying to get it to now some final things happening. So once we move along to painting, I think this is gonna go a heck of a lot faster, thankfully. The work was really all in this paper mache, and I foresee at least another probably 30 hours of paper macheing. It's not as bad as I'm saying, because it's nice to sit and just kind of listen to the TV and hang out and work on a project. And yeah, there you have it. Now at a point where I got to set it aside after this and get packing, because you all know it's time for me to have a vacation. I love the way this looks. The blue is working out good. Here's how it looks. It's obvious that what is my second coat? That's a win. And here it is when it's dry. You can see it. So see y'all next time on the next part. Thanks, and have a great night, jammers. Love your company.